Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you for your questions. Ali, Stevie, bopping away here in the studio. Naden Manua joins us as well. Naden, what's the furore been like after your Jurgen Klopp interview went viral?
Oh my God, Dan, this is all your fault. I just like to just remain as anonymous as possible, as is the case with interviews, but yet still, people coming up to me, oh, did you play football? Did you play football? Did you play football? It's like, well,
yes!
Kinda. But yeah, cheers for that, Dan. Thank you.
Oh, I'm very pleased about that. That's brilliant. Do you think a team like City can just get tired of winning over the long term? Last two games, you don't see a lot of motivation. How do players manage to stay hungry and sustain success? Was a winner of the league 5 times, Stevie. This is a very apt question for yourself.
How to answer this? You don't get tired of winning. Absolutely not. The winning's what...
Do you have less of an
Do you know,
appetite?
sometimes it's losing that makes you want to win. Because when you win all the time, it becomes normal.
Right.
And so when you lose, it feels like everything's collapsed. I mean, I think a lot of it is down to the mentality of the players, that they keep each other going. You've also got to have the manager and the coaching staff that every day that they're on you,
right,
and you can't have days off, and to make sure that you do the stuff you have to do in order to stay at that level. But just unfortunately, we're actually human, and sometimes there are no obvious reasons for not being at your best or not being at your sharpest, not just being mentally as sharp as you normally would.
Right.
Happens to everybody. Sometimes it happens to everybody at the one time, and that seems to be what's going on at City.
I'm with you, Stevie, right, in what you're saying. But it would make a whole lot more sense given the fact that they already lost in the midweek. And you're playing against Manchester United on the weekend, so you would have thought that, all right, you got your losing out of the way, and now we're going to see a much better performance. And while it was better, it wasn't brilliant. It wasn't Manchester City. It wasn't even close to their best. That's the part that is surprising to me.
The tough thing is, as well, is people expect you to be at your best every single time.
Well, because you're...
You know, the truth is, City didn't deserve to lose this game.
Right.
No question. But they did. And everybody's pointing the finger at them. You can't always be brilliant.
But they haven't been brilliant for a while. I think that's the concern, isn't it, from a City
Yeah,
perspective?
but again, it's because we hold them to a certain standard.
Well, that's why we should. They're defending champions.
Well, yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Right.
I'm just saying
you
that
making
makes it
excuses
even
for
harder. I'm not making excuses at all. It makes it even harder to be at your best all the time.
Stevie, how many Liverpool players get into the Brighton team? This was obviously off the back of yesterday, where Don said that only 1 or 2 Brighton players will get into the Liverpool side, and he wouldn't have Mac Allister, for example.
What? I've got to tell you, I was sitting watching the game, right, and at 2-0, I'm like, the game's done.
Yes.
And I'm going, I hope Mac Allister scores. I was desperate for Mac Allister.
Don got a lot of abuse on Twitter, which is always fun. Who scores more goals this season in the Premier League, Naden? Weghosrt or João Felix?
Oh my goodness gracious me, how's this come to be?
Well,
I think United will score more goals than Chelsea will soon at the end of the season, so I'm going to go for, unfortunately, Weghosrt, as wild as that may be, because I think Felix will contribute and maybe be a bigger part of it. But I can see Weghosrt maybe scoring 5 to 10, whereas I can't necessarily see that from Felix this season, unless he gets extended for next year anyway.
I'm going to say João Felix simply because I think he's going to be out on the field more often than Weghosrt.
Hopefully.
Well, yes, assuming that he doesn't get thrown out every game. But I think he's going to be out there, whereas Weghosrt is going to be a spot starter here and there and a last 10 minutes sort of player.
Yeah, Felix. I'm going for João
You going
Felix.
Felix?
Yes.
Yeah. What's been the highlight of the week? Brighton beating Liverpool, Manchester United beating Manchester City, or Naden's performance during the Cup semi-final for the Carabao Cup? What a moment. Naden for us all.
Yeah.
Only the semi-finals, though.
Oh, what do you mean? Oh, do you mean with the draw?
Yes.
It's no big deal. The fate of English football in my hands, no big deal. And then I did the draw, which everyone said is rigged. But yeah, it's fine, yeah.
Were you drawing the away side, or who were you? What was your role? Like, I didn't see it.
I was drawing the away sides, and interestingly, when I did the rehearsal before the show started, I dropped one of the balls, so I was actually really, really nervous that I could destroy it again. But in the end, it all came good, and yeah, they get the semi-finals that some people wanted. Yeah.
How do you get that job? Who calls you up?
Jurgen Klopp.
I just happened to be on. Definitely wasn't him. I just happened to be doing the TV production for that game on that day. So as a consequence, whoever's on as a pundit, you just do the draw. So they did it for the other draws, and I just happened to be there. I was not headhunted. It just happened. I knew nothing about it until all of a sudden they said, "Well,
you may be getting headhunted now."
Pick the teams out.
No, I think it's interesting, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
It definitely qualifies as a footballer that you need to rehearse taking balls out of a bag. That seems interesting, even for you, Nathan.
Better with my feet. Better with my feet, yes.
Jurgen would disagree. Stevie, who are you most disappointed with in regards to Liverpool's poor season? Klopp, the players, or the front office board for not spending enough money for new players?
You got to say the players.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's as we've spoken about already. It's very difficult to be up there all the time, but there has to be a certain level you don't go under.
They went under today,
and they've been under more than one occasion. Yeah. There's too many. I would have to say I'm disappointed in the players. Yeah.
When it comes to ageing players like the Liverpool midfield, what are the indications that can tell us that loss of form might only be temporary loss of form instead of a more permanent decline that comes with age?
Well, you start giving more fouls away. That's probably the biggest one, because in the middle of the park, you're probably, as much as anybody else on the field, you're making challenges.
But you stopped listening at the second part of the question, didn't you?
I did.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, because I didn't know there was two parts to it.
It's when I stopped talking.
What was the second part?
How do you know the difference between you're getting old and rubbish, as opposed to it's just a loss of form and you can turn it around?
Well, you don't
Right.
know you don't know you're getting old.
Okay.
You're always the last one to figure that one out. Everybody around you and your coaches will see it, because they'll be seeing you doing things differently than
From the outside looking in, do you think, Jordan Henderson's just having a bad run, or he's old?
They are definitely looking after him physically because of his age.
Right.
Which I guess is a nice way of saying he's getting on.
You know what doesn't lie, Stevie? When you watch videos of yourself, and you know you're getting old, right?
Right.
Or at least you feel like, you know what?
It takes time, that.
I know, but once you start processing it in front of you, you're like, oh, good Lord, I look slow.
Yeah. Yeah, but you go through stages of blaming something else.
Right. Well, what did you?
I'm not eating the right things.
Oh, wait, what?
I'm not eating the right things. I need to lose 3 or 4 pounds.
Oh, right, I see.
I need to do I'm not getting enough rest. I'm not hydrating enough.
Oh.
I'm not. And eventually, it just hits you and you go, I'm just getting old.
Oh. Nathan, you were
Not
renowned,
nice.
of course, for your pace. Did that start to wane?
Maybe I slowed down a bit, but my starting point, I was like a track sprinter for like nationally anyway before I started, so I wasn't exactly slow when I left.
Right.
But I think for me, it's more
So when you were slow, you were fast.
the way when you start playing the game differently. Yeah, when you start playing the game differently, then you know that something's going on, because I think in this era, there's so much sort of data out there. People can see when your outputs are changing, whether it's your total distance, the sort of like high-speed distance that you do. But then also, it's a little subtle cue in the way that the younger players now try and play against you. All of a sudden, they want to try and run past you. All of a sudden, they come in to try and press you all the time because they believe that you're not as good as you once were. And I think when that's the case, you have to sort of change the way that you play. When you change the way that you play, before you know it, you're a different player. So I think in terms of like the sense of age and decline, if the game looks different, even though it feels like it should feel the same, then ultimately that's a decline which you'll never be able to get back. Whereas for some, like Stevie said, maybe I'll just lose a bit of weight, maybe I'll just go and work on crossing into the box. But you know, ultimately, like, the game remains undefeated, and there's just this flow of players that start off well, peak, and then before you know it, the decline happens, and then the season's done, their career's done, and then someone else steps in.
I've just seen what Twitter handle Jackie has. Can you read that, Stevie?
Give me $50.
Give me $50. Is Casemiro the signing of the season, Ali?
I think he gives this team a sense of stability in the midfield and structure that they simply did not have before. Look at a player like Fred, for example. When Casemiro wasn't there and Fred was playing, he was, in many of Manchester United fans' eyes, one of the reasons as to why they were not successful. Now you have Casemiro, and Fred all of a sudden is running with energy and getting to tackles and winning challenges. So it's not just the effect of Casemiro and what he brings himself, it's what he does for players around him. I really do think that a player of that caliber, with that history, with that success over the course of his career, gives this team a totally different outlook through the midfield.
Is he more of a signing of the season than Haaland?
No, he is not.
Oh, you're nodding, Stevie.
You don't think so?
No, I would rather have Erling Haaland right now than I would Casemiro, but that's
No, I'm
not.
just thinking in terms of the difference he makes to the team.
Oh well, that's.
You know, I mean, listen, as far as goals are concerned, obviously, he's got more goals. But what Casemiro's done, the difference in Manchester United from before his signing to now is through the roof. I mean, we sat here today talking about, people were talking about saying that Man United are now title challengers.
You gave them a 20% chance of winning the title.
They're now title challengers. And I'll tell you what, without him,
Right.
which is really funny because the first 2 or 3 games they played,
Yep.
I was sitting here going, he's rotten.
Yep.
He looks overweight. He looks slow. And then all of a sudden, just turned on the afterburners.
And it depends on how you look at it and what perspective you
Yeah.
take as to what the signing of the season is, because Erling Haaland potentially is going to break records, scoring records,
Yes.
this season.
Yeah.
So it's hard to turn away from that as well.
It's a dawn question, isn't it? If you're picking a team and you've got a choice of the two of them, you pick Haaland, obviously.
Right.
But
Has the World Cup improved Mac Allister, or it just gave him the recognition and appreciation he already deserves, Ali?
Well, I just think his performance in the World Cup put him in a different platform. And the World Cup is indeed the biggest stage there is. And so what we saw from him with Argentina in pressure moments in the World Cup undoubtedly forces us to watch Brighton and see Alexis Mac Allister play and go, man, this guy's a baller. Now, if he were to play Liverpool every weekend, the version of Liverpool that he played against today, this guy will be unstoppable. Generational player. That's how good he was today and how poor Liverpool were today.
Final question. Sevilla losing again today. Is it fixable? They're looking at a potential relegation battle that only continued to struggle since the arrival of Sampaoli.
Right, and so when you make a coaching change, the thing that we always talk about is that bump, right? You're gonna get that push. Well, they got the push, but it was the push down.
Yes.
It wasn't a push up. And there are some decisions that are now being made at Sevilla that you just don't quite understand. One of the few talented players that they really had in the attack was Isco, and they just kind of let him walk out the door because he had difficulties with Monchi and with Sampaoli and what have you. And they're struggling to score goals.
Yep.
You let your talented players walk out the door and you're struggling to score goals, it doesn't seem to make sense. Unless, of course, this is a hard-to-beat team. Well, not right now, they're not hard to beat. They're in real trouble.
That is it. Nathan, what game are you at tomorrow?
Not actually. I'm doing a WSL show. No games for me tomorrow. Just gonna take it easy.
All right, take it easy, Nathan. Good. You deserve a little rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much for everyone who has been on. It'll be a busy show tomorrow, of course, as we'll